for invocation by Pastor Stephen Johnson of New Life Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
My Little League Baseball
Good evening.
coach. Welcome aboard, Coach.
Would you bow your heads in prayer with me? Heavenly Father, we come tonight humbly to pray for our nation, our state, and the great city of Port Orange. Your word exhorts us to pray for those in authority that we may live quiet and peaceful lives. And our Father, our nation and our cities need your peace and protection. We thank you for the promises and blessings found in your word and pray and declare them over all our elected officials, our president and those who serve with him in our nation's capital, our governor and those who serve with him in this state of Florida, and those who serve in our city, and especially those who serve on this city council. We pray tonight your supernatural wisdom, counsel, and direction, that you would continually remind us that it is by your will that we are placed in these positions of authority and make these decisions. We ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Foley.
Here.
Councilmember Tremont.
Here.
Councilmember Bastian.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Special awards, reports, recognition, proclamations. Item 4, report from Kemper Sports on Cypress Head Golf. We've been keeping you busy out there.
Yes. Hi, good evening, Mr. City Manager, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. I have the pleasure tonight to kind of bring you up on some reports for actually the past 3 months, since it's been a little bit of a last time since I've actually been here. So we're just going to kind of do the overall rundown, starting kind of in a January aspect, where our golf revenues finished 12% higher than projected. Our number of rounds actually were reduced, but the revenue was higher due to just incredible course conditions and some really highly ranked customer service by the team at Cypress Head. Revenues actually at that point were higher year over year by almost 7%. I'll kind of wait till March to give you the overall as to where we are for the fiscal year at this point, rather than getting into those. For January, we had 4,479 total golf rounds. Our expenses in course and grounds was a little bit lower than projected just due to timing of invoices, but our maintenance teams, they're continuing with top dressing our greens, and our tee boxes were fertilized that month, which improves the playability of all the tee areas themselves. They also solid time the putting surfaces, which allows to relieve compaction, gives a lot more air movement to the root structure, makes them healthier, and they putt much better and faster, which is what every good golfer likes to have. In January, we had over $15,000 worth of club sales, which for the Pro Shop is really an incredible amount. All the new technology out in the market right now has improved everybody's golf game, so it's tremendous. Our summary report, which we do for In Moment as part of Kemper Sports, our rating right now is a 9.5 in January with a course rating of 9.1 and our overall service rating at 9.6 with a 96.8% recommendation by Google. So that is tremendous. Good news is just when you thought January was going to be big, February was even bigger. There's been a big increase in golf this year. Also the fact that the course conditions themselves are probably the best they've ever been. Again, our maintenance team, Darren Baki, has done a tremendous job, plus all of our people that are working have really done well with all the customer service aspect themselves. So our revenues for February actually finished 30% higher than our budget and 14% over the previous year. So at that point, our payroll for the month was a little bit higher, but most of it, as everybody's experienced, there's been a lot of labor cost. And our operating expenses themselves, again, are pretty much even to where we have budgeted. For the month of February, we had over 5,000 rounds played, and our maintenance team did a spring pre-emergent weed application, which is hopefully to prevent all the germination of weeds, prevent it from coming through in the course of the summer when it gets really hot and wet in the course of the summertime itself. Shop sales, we had over $10,800, and we started a whole new series of golf get-ready clinics for beginners, intermediates, as well as individual lessons that are held on a regular basis. We now have 3 PGA-affiliated professionals, myself, Mike Dick, and Dylan Contrell, that are doing lessons from that point through the golf course. Reports for the course summary, again, still high, 9.6 for the overall rating, with a service rating of 9.8, and our recommended rating is 9.8, and again, we're staying at the 98.6 mark. So February was a tremendous month as well. To finish off the quarter, March, again, you keep thinking what's going to happen, but we were 25% higher in terms of revenues, which is tremendous. And again, in great course conditions, higher price per round also made a difference. And again, the continuation of customer service by our team. We did have a demo day in March, which was very well received. I didn't see any of you there at demo day buying new clubs, but they're still open and available for you if you like. No.
Yeah, clubs would not help me.
Clubs are not going to help.
I don't
Okay.
think technology has advanced quite that much yet.
So the good news on the fiscal part of the year, this March is really our 6th month, and right now we're overall revenues are ahead by 27% for the fiscal year ending for the 6 months. Payroll is pretty much a little higher, again, just for the labor aspect and stuff of what we need to do for customer service. And our operating expenses are pretty well close to point, even though the supply chain has had some issues. It's getting better, by the way. So a lot of the products are starting to be delivered. In March, we had 5,300 rounds. And the great thing is we did a complete fertilization of the entire property from wall to wall, and that'll improve all the growth of all the grasses through the course and hold us through the course of the summer. So the fairways have improved in terms of their thickness. Putting greens are still probably the best I consider in the county itself. So anytime you want to come out, that'll be great. On our demo day, we did sell over $20,000 worth of golf clubs. So it does help. It does work. New technology. The good news is I just heard today that we are getting our new golf carts, which we ordered last August. So that's a little over 9 months. So they finally got them all fixed up. We're going to get them on Friday. So the good news is we will have tremendously beautiful new golf carts for the most anticipated event this
June 18th?
season on June 18th, which is going to be the Mayor's Golf Tournament. So we're looking forward to all of that. So if you haven't signed up, please do so, because I know it's going to be sold out this year. Last thing I just have to say is we are currently in status for the News Journal Best of the Best golf courses. So if you have a chance, you can go to News Journal or go to our Cypress Head website, and you can vote for us as the best golf course in both Volusia and Flagler County. So great news from Cypress Head.
Indeed. It was, I was going through the reports. I told you before the meeting that, and then I get to March, I'm like, well, here's the drop off coming up. In my 12 years on council, that was the best quarter I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Surprisingly, a lot of people stayed. A lot of our northern friends didn't want to go back. So that also helps as
Imagine
well.
that.
Imagine
Yeah.
that. There's a trend.
As you said
Imagine
before,
that.
the city of Port Orange is a beautiful place to be, and right now I think they're deciding that they want to stay here. So it's good.
How often do the demo days occur, and how often are they on the weekends?
We haven't done a weekend, but that's actually a great idea. I know that has to be dependent upon the fitters, in this case from the teams.
Sure.
But that would be something, because we can do them during the weekdays, but it's a little harder. But
your
I'll definitely
weekend
look
golfers
into
or
that.
whatever.
We do them about, in this case, probably twice, maybe 3 times a year. Once the fall, once the spring, and usually sometime during the summertime.
I'm just thinking kudos, by the way, great report, and my compliments to your entire staff and everybody out there at Cypress Head. But if the
I was just thinking the demo days have been that successful and they're that good. Can't imagine what they might have to be on a weekend for all those folks that can't get out there.
No, it's a great thought, because they've never really offered them at the point. They usually do them on weekdays, but that's definitely something we can look into. I'd like to do that.
All right. Any other questions for Bob?
Bob, are the golf carts coming with the batteries?
They have actually the new lithium batteries, so they're supposed to reduce our electrical cost by 50%. The weight of the golf cart itself, taking out the old lead acid batteries,
Yeah.
are going to be 300 pounds less, which
Oh.
means that there's less wear and tear in terms of the grasses themselves.
Interesting.
So all in all, and they're supposed to be great for 5 years. There's no questions, no maintenance, no nothing to them at all for 5 years.
Interesting.
So that's going
What's
to be
your
really.
replacement timeline typically about that?
We've been at 3 years with lead acid batteries. We
Okay.
get to go to about 25,000 amps, and we're all right now at 23,000. So we were right on the tail end of
Okay.
okay, they're not going to be good anymore.
Gotcha.
You can probably tough them out by 4 years, but it's impossible, especially with
do
the
the
usage.
old carts get traded in? Do they go to an auction? How does
They
that
get traded in. Part
it.
of the thing, the team from for Susan and her
Okay.
team and stuff, they negotiate, and I think Matt has certainly been involved in that whole process itself. But we maintain our golf carts so well that we get incredible trade-in value.
Okay.
So it's been good.
Awesome.
And they're ocean blue. They're going to be really pretty.
Oh, isn't that special?
That'll work.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob.
Consent agenda, public comments for consent agenda items. Anyone want to speak to anything that's on our consent agenda? There being none, I need a motion for approval for the agenda for the evening.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any naysayers, say nay. The agenda is approved for the evening. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda itself.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second for approval of the consent agenda. Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes. 5-0. Public participation. Emma Clark. Come on up. Dang right. We want to see you.
Hi everyone, my name's Emma Clark. I'm with All Aboard Storage, and today I'm here representing the Port Orange Chamber of Commerce. I am just wanting to let everybody know about upcoming events that we have. So for May, on May 19th, this Thursday, it's a business after hours event. And then on May 27th, there is a Sea Turtle Lighting Expo from 1 to 7 p.m. And then on June 9th, there is a chamber mega mixer. And all of our chamber events are listed online. So we hope to see everyone there.
And
They all-
this
are they all-
Thursday's at Town and
Yes, it's at Country Inn and
Suites.
Yep. Yes.
And where online can people go if they want to find that information?
The Port Orange Chamber website. So all of our events are listed on there.
All right.
PSChamber.
POSDchamber.com?
Yes, that's correct.
POSD check, yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Emma.
you.
Good to see you. Do I have any others? And Robert Reinhagen.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I wanted to talk about cardboard recycling. When I first moved here, we were told that you could break down the boxes 2 by 2 and then bundle them together and have them next to the recycling bin. Now this last thing that you people put out indicated that it had to fit inside the box, inside the bin. So I spoke to the lady over at the place where you pick up the recycling bins at the corporate yard, and she told me that they have a contract with the city and they have to do what you tell them to do. That means it has to go inside the bin. And then I talked to another fellow who works for Waste Pro. He was over here at the library, and he said, "Oh yeah, you can cut it 2 by 2 and just stack them next to the bin, and we'll pick them up." Since this COVID problem. More and more people are buying online. And so I don't know about your neighborhood, but in my neighborhood, there's an awful lot of empty boxes sitting out there that go into the trash. They don't break them up. And I think the city needs to get together with Waste Pro and the recycling company and try to come up with a campaign so that you can encourage people to break them up and recycle them instead of throwing them in the trash.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
And skipped out of order. I was so anxious to get to, oh, here we go, public participation agenda. Progressive Medical Research, National Citizen Champion Award winner, Sheila Miner. Drew, I believe you requested to have this added to the agenda?
Yeah, and there was supposed to, I never got anything from it, so it's like, I think they were gonna
They're here.
talk about it or whatever, so, let us know what,
Yep, tell us all about it.
Yeah. So thank you guys for having us up here. Imagine if you would watching a game, whether it's whatever game you enjoy, and seeing only one side of the field play. Would you know who's winning or who isn't winning? Probably not, right? And one interesting thing is we're right here in Port Orange. We do a lot with Alzheimer's and dementia. We do a lot with type 2 diabetes. We do a lot with fatty liver disease. And when was the last time that any of you heard any good news from any of those subjects from the news?
You don't.
You don't.
can't recall.
That's right.
You don't.
And the sad thing and is that there's a lot of good news happening in the area, and we've been recognized worldwide. We have people that fly in from all over the world. We have the Mayo Clinic that sends us patients all day long. So people are coming to Port Orange in droves because of the good news that we're experiencing in Alzheimer's and dementia, type 2 diabetes, and fatty liver disease, and there's a lot more than that. But there's a story about a mouse and an elephant that are crossing a rickety old bridge. And the mouse and the elephant cross the bridge, and it's rickety, and the bridge is bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down as they cross the bridge. When they get to the other side, the mouse proudly puts his chest out, looks up at the elephant and says, "Do you see how I rocked that bridge?" The reason I tell you that story is because I could sit up here and give you all the good news that's happening and all the great things that we're doing as Progressive Medical Research because we're in the community, but I don't want to do that because we're the mouse in this entire story. The elephant in the room, the ones that are making a difference, are the ones that are participating in the medical research. They're the ones that are talking to their neighbors and saying, you got to hear the good news of what's happening at Progressive Medical Research. And so Sheila Miner is one of those people that we recommended for an award, and she actually won the national award for all of the country. We flew her out to Arizona to a very posh 5-star, well, I didn't, it's not my money, but but we flew them out, and they were awarded a very special and unique time. So I just want Sheila to stand up. And Sheila, I know you're afraid to death of talking, so I told her I will not make her talk. However, I do want to just allow us to plead with the public. We need people like Sheila to help us out. We're going to kick Alzheimer's in the butt when we have people like Sheila that are as dedicated to seeing this disease end. And the way that we do that is we have people come to our office. We're right at 5111 Ridgewood, All Aboard Properties. I think I met somebody here that I might know.
On the top floor, right?
That's right, top floor.
Top floor.
And we don't talk about what we do. We're kind of like this little quiet person in the room, but what's happening is unbelievable. And we just had a recent pretty big news person come and did a whole story about us. In our mind, we were so excited because we thought finally we're getting some national recognition for the good news that's happening in these different diseases. And sadly enough, what happens is if it bleeds, it leads, right? So as opposed to giving all the good information of what's happening, of course, the lead story is a negative story about Alzheimer's. And that's sad. But we don't have to rely upon the mouse. We don't have to rely upon the media. We can rely upon people like Sheila, who can make a difference. We can rely upon people like the citizens of Port Orange that are making a difference and that are really kicking this thing in the butt. Sorry. So anyway, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions. But it's not about us. It's about these people that are making the difference. And so we're so appreciative of people like them. We happen to be in Port Orange. We love Port Orange. We're going to be around for a lot longer. If you have not taken the time to come down and see us at Progressive Medical Research, I highly recommend you come by. You will be blown away with what's happening there. Any questions I can answer?
I have but one request. Would you come down here so we can take a picture?
Where are we standing?
Right here.
All right.
We're looking in whatever direction Christine's in.
All right.
Okay. And wait a second, hold on, this one's more important. Thank you. All right.
Appreciate you letting us talk. Good to see you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Mayor, just a quick comment for in regards to that before we move on. Knowing Rick and Sheila for many years, they just do so many things for so many people, oftentimes behind the scenes. It's nice to see a public recognition. In all these years I've known you, I never knew any of this about you. That's how thin you're spread out. So well-deserved congratulations.
I'll add to that really quickly as well. It was Sarah from, I think, Rational 360 reached out to me a few weeks ago and shared your story, which I believe others can find online through their website. And what you do, it's hard to explain, but it's something that serves a great need, and I think it's outstanding what you're willing to do, and your why, which is always important, right? It's not just what we do, but why we do it, and your why with your family history is something I think a lot of people enjoy learning about. So, but thank you, very, very much.
Good stuff. Well, that does bring us to the council comments part of the meeting, and we talk about an awful lot about how people make a difference in the city of Port Orange. And we just recognized one person. I'd like to recognize another for, I hate to say, less than favorable reasons. For many, many years, as long as I can remember, Dwight Galt has occupied a special seat in our council chambers. He is a volunteer in police services, and he has been a friend to anybody and everybody who's ever met him. Mm-hmm. He's not somebody that knows how to say no. And we lost him last week, and that was a call that kind of rocked me a little bit. And with that, well, first of all, Chase, if you do me the honor, or do him the honor of reading his obituary into the record.
Yeah, if I'll read his obituary, and if I move into the comments right after that, or we can save that for another time.
Well, all our council comments will follow doing this.
Very good.
Yeah.
Dwight Galt, 79, of Port Orange, Florida, passed away on May 9th, 2022 at the home of his daughter, Kristen, in Great Mills, Maryland. He was born March 30th, 1943 in Parkersburg, a son of the late Audrey Cecil Galt and Phyllis V. Ayers Galt. He was a 1962 graduate of Parkersburg High School. He was a 22-year veteran of the West Virginia Army National Guard, where he served honorably as a major. He was a member of the South Parkersburg Baptist Church, where he was on the board of deacons. He attended the Daytona Beach Drive-In Church. He retired from E.I. DuPont in 2004 as an accounts payable clerk. He was a proud and active member of the Volunteers and Police Service for the Port Orange Police Department in Port Orange, Florida for 7 years. Dwight is survived by his wife of 55 years, Patricia Galt, whom he married November 19, 1966. One daughter, Kristen France of Great Mills, Maryland. Two brothers, Leo Galt of Fort Pierce, Florida, and Douglas Michael Galt of Parkersburg, and several nieces and nephews. In addition to his parents, Dwight was preceded in death by one brother, Franklin Galt. And the funeral services were this past Monday. Having spoken to his daughter on a number of occasions, they will be planning a memorial service in this area at some point. I will, of course, share that
Please do.
information with council and the public as well. But if I can just add a few words for Dwight. You know, Dwight would often catch me looking at myself in that screen, checking out my receding hairline. And his
No.
response was always, "It's still going." Dwight loved God. He loved his family. He loved his fellow VIPs very much. He loved law enforcement, Chief. He loved our fire and rescue very much, Chief. He loved all of our staff, and he loved this council very much. Dwight was just full of love. And in a world looking for full of people looking for the negative in everything, Dwight was one of those that always found the positive and was always full of encouraging words of affirmation to people. He was a man of prayer, a faithful husband and devoted father, and one of the most heralded VIPs for the Port Orange Police Department. Dwight, I will miss that hug every council meeting. I will miss your text message commentaries to me during the meetings. I will miss the random
Now
phone
we know
calls.
what he was doing. Yeah.
I will miss the random phone calls just to check in with each other. I will miss your unwavering friendship. Enjoy those pearly gates, my dear brother. Our heartfelt loss is heaven's eternal gain. I love you, my friend.
Council, if you do me the pleasure of joining me below, I'd like to continue comments and add some others and make a presentation at the same time. Before I do this, Scott, do you have some words you want to add?
Yeah, but they're pretty hard to come by. You know, Chase, reading the obituary and the comments you've already made, you know, when I was in Indianapolis, Indiana, when I got the news, it's a business that this had happened, and I literally had to double take and read what I was seeing, because I just couldn't believe it, because we're so accustomed to walking in here. In many cases, he was the first person in the chambers.
Oh, no
He'd
doubt.
already be there.
Yeah.
And shaking his hand, greeting us, always with a smile on his face, looked healthy, felt great, just a life-loving person, a man of God, and somebody who was extremely happy and honored to represent our community always. And you know, many times you hear people who are ill and they're battling an illness for long, long periods of time, and not that makes it any better, but you know that maybe there's something going on with Dwight. There was no indication of that. I certainly didn't have any indication of that, so this was very much a shock. And after I read that message, in my mind, reflecting on it, it's a loss. It's a true loss for the community. And our world will not be as good without him, unless we can all learn to be a little bit more like Dwight.
I cannot follow that. This guy does that to me all the time. I can't. That's just.
What do you think? I make him go before you?
Exactly. So, yeah, as far as, I mean, everything. Dwight was a great person, a good friend. Scott, with the, you know, he was one of the first ones here. I come early, and oftentimes he'd be standing at the door. Okay, open the door. I'm like, it's like 5:30. I'd be here an hour early, and he'd already be here. So,
Let you in.
yeah, I'd open the door for him and he would come and sit right there. That's why we have this roped off now.
Should've just given him a key.
But I know, right? He should have had the key, but, just a little thing I remember, you know, there's a lot of things that, like I said, such a good person that, Chase Tremont made a coaching debut for Spruce Creek High School, head basketball coach. And Dwight and I sat in the stands. We made every game the first season and sat up there, and he was just great. And he was taking shots at you when we were up there. How's he doing that? Whatever. So it was, but nothing. It was like, oh, you know, he wouldn't agree with all your coaching decisions, but he always congratulated you, you know. And so I can, yeah, and I can remember sitting up there with him and just and he was there. I mean, he would beat me to those games. He'd be there I'd walk in and he'd be up there sitting already. So, you know, that's a great memory. Just that whole first season, we made every game, and he was just a good guy to talk to, and he never met a stranger. Everybody was a friend. You know, he was a friend to everybody. So I'm just gonna miss seeing the man sit here and everything else that came out of that.
You know, like Scott, I was out of town when I got the news on business. I was actually in Music City. I couldn't believe seeing that text message either. Dwight was always so full of life and so excited every meeting. It was great to have a conversation with him before or after, sometimes both. You know, but like I said, I was in Music City, and I take a lot of. I get a lot out of scripture, I get a lot out of music lyrics, and there's a song called 3 Wooden Crosses, and the whole hook to the thing is it's not what you take when you leave the world behind you, it's what you leave behind you when you go. And today we're honoring a man who left a legacy that is exceptional, a family man, a God-fearing man, somebody who served his community to the best of his ability, had hundreds of hours of service, like just last year alone for our VIPs. Thousands over the years, and that kind of character, that kind of person is invaluable. They add such an amazing wrinkle to the fabrics of our lives and our communities, and that he's going to be one that is very sorely missed for a very long time.
As a member of the police volunteers and police services, who I'm going to put a shameless plug in for, we would love to have more volunteers. Pat, we would love to have more volunteers, and you
Well,
just
we have
lost
a
a good
couple
one.
openings, so.
Add your thoughts, please.
Oh, Dwight, he could be a pain in the butt. You know, he was a good guy, always volunteered, you know, but he was such a worrywart, you know, it'd be such a simple thing, and he'd have to rehearse and practice, and it's like, geez, Dwight, just go with what you know. But no, Dwight had to be perfect, you know. He helped out with the police academy, he got a lot of recruiting done, brought us some new victims. He was just an all, I mean, at our meeting, we found out Monday afternoon they had passed, and so at the meeting Monday night, I waited until the end of the meeting because I thought, well, get business over with and then we'll talk about Dwight. And I had pulled a couple of people that were close with Dwight ahead to let them know, you know. And then when we were about done, I told everyone the news, you know, and then we ended the meeting. And it's the first time in all the years I've been at our meetings that I had to tell the people to leave. They all just sat there, you know, like in disbelief that Dwight is gone, you know, and we were just, you know, sitting there in shock and very sad because I had a lot of more jobs for him to do, you know. He sat in my office the day before he left with his wife, you know, and I'm like, Dwight, this, you know, and when are you coming back? He said, maybe a month. I said, not allowed, you know, 2 weeks the most. And, you know, he was just, you know, he was just himself. And I miss him a lot. Really, really good man. When I talked to his daughter, I told her, I said, you know, you'd be amazed how popular that your father is, you know. I mean, even the people that work at the smoothie shop, you know, were looking for him, so, you know, I think the family will be happy.
Talk about a legacy of service just by getting out of bed every day. There's so many people that can make a difference in a small way, and you keep adding and adding to that, and before you know it, you made a difference in a small way so many different times. You made a difference in a big way. And that was Dwight. A couple decades ago, we honored a citizen who sat in the front row in that first seat. Mr. John King Jr. was awarded a nameplate on that seat and named that plate. For tonight, I ordered the seats roped off, where, the seat and the seat next to where Dwight sat, so that nobody would sit in those seats tonight. And after tonight's meeting, we're going to be adding his nameplate to those seats to honor him. So long after he's gone, he won't be forgotten. But more than that, the legacy of service, just making a difference a little bit every day. That's the example we can all follow. And if I could just ask that everybody observe a moment of silence right now.
I'll conclude the moment of silence with a brief prayer if anyone would wish to join. Father, we do thank you for the opportunity to know Dwight. Pray that apply the peace that passes all understanding to his family. May he rest peacefully and joyfully at your side. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. We are going to find ways to help recruit and beef up our VIPs, because those are some wonderful, wonderful people, but they can use some help. We have one VIP who's been with us since I was in high school in the 1980s. Mary's a wonderful lady, but I tell you what, they need help. So we'll continue to talk about those things. And with that, we can continue with council comments. Chase, did you have anything else for us this evening?
I did not. Thank you, Mayor.
That was plenty. Reed, you have anything for us this evening?
Yeah, you know, couple of things. On May 6th, I actually went to the police department for the swearing in of 3 new officers. Saw some of our VIPs there. It's always so wonderful to be a part of that and experience and see people when they take that oath and they come be a part of our department. And I always appreciate when I can make it in there. Congratulations to those 3 officers, and thanks, Chief, for keeping us invited to those things. Also, I want to say thank you and to Parks and Rec and staff. Baseball's wrapping up this week. My kid played his last game yesterday, and it was not the easiest season you guys have had to put on, but you did a great job. And I know we all really enjoyed the season. I know Noah had a blast. So, but thanks to Parks and Rec staff and everybody for all they do to make that happen. And I'm looking forward to the Mayor's Tournament coming up. It's getting here quicker rather than later. Just want to make sure that the Mayor knows I intend to win again this year.
Yeah. You intended to win last year, too. I don't see it happen. Just saying. Scott?
Yeah, just I want to follow up on a comment from Robert Reinhagen tonight. Robert, I appreciate your thoughts and comments on the recycling. One of the things that I noticed in the community, especially in my neighborhood, obviously, is the things that don't fit well into the bin end up being blown all over the neighborhood. You find stuff in your yard, down the street, or whatever. If it's not windy, then things work out okay. But if you get a little bit of wind, it'll blow things all over. So to that thought is, I was down in the city of Stuart, I believe it was Stuart, Florida, last year, and they are using basically full-size cans as recycle bins. But what really was unique about them was they have a decal that can be taken on and off the top lid. They are lid recycled, so the recycle bin has a lid to it, and it has a decal on there. So to explain what can be recycled and what should not be going in the recycle bins and things like that. And I think that's a great tool for education and recycling, because, and this is kind of where I'm going with this, the recycling aspect seems to be changing frequently. There was a period of time where all the recyclables had market value. There was a market out there that had demand and was looking for a lot of these things, and as we know, we've heard in recent years, that demand has fallen apart, and to some respect it's almost costing more money for the taxpayers to put things in recycle bins that aren't going to get recycled, that end up in the landfill. We don't know what the future holds with that, but if we're going to continue a recycling program in our city, I think that as we grow and as more and more products like the cardboard boxes Robert spoke about, he's right, because I can tell you at my house, the FedEx and the Amazon folks start worrying if they don't make a delivery, because my wife's on there constantly ordering stuff. So the cardboard box, that's a very good point, Robert, is something that's growing in demand. And you can only put so much of that in the bins, and people aren't always going to take the time to cut those things down to certain sizes and things like that. So just some comments, nothing particular for tonight, but it is something that we as a city are going to have to look at in our future as to whether or not we need to go to a bigger bin, something with a lid, and also, how can we come up with a mechanism that's easy to stick on those bins and take them off and update them as we need to. So just something I do appreciate Robert's comments tonight, because they're very well on point.
Drew?
No, I don't have anything further tonight.
Kind of hard to add to everything that we've had this evening. I agree. Just want to remind everybody, we do have a workshop next week, budget season starting, so we'll have the CIP. Is that correct, Lance?
Yes, sir.
And we'll have that in plenty of time so we can actually, read all 600 pages of it?
It's not the full CIP. It's a summary and analysis of it.
Okay. Well, and to the point, we're not making decisions on it. We're having a presentation, so.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Thus the workshop. So let's be prepared for that next week. With that, board appointments, interviews, and reports. This is an advisory committee of the TPO. Mr. Bobby Ball.
Good evening, Bobby Ball with the CSC for the TPO. We had our monthly meeting, and the usual kind of stuff with updating TPO priority list and things like that. But the good news is several of the Port Orange projects made it higher on the list because of the, especially this year's new submittals from the rankings that we had. So, and then another set of projects went from Tier B to Tier A. So Port Orange is being represented well in the list right now. I know you always ask for an I-95 update every quarter, and I asked about it, and the DOT's got a new rep, so he didn't exactly have the latest information. He's got a meeting later this week. He will update us, and then I'll share that with you guys when I can. I also asked him to put it on his continuing list every month and make sure that's something he talks about. So with that.
How many years have you served on this?
A few.
Yeah, you can't count that high, can you?
I don't remember.
With that, thank you for what you do for us.
Sure.
Council, any questions?
Thank you.
You're off
Thanks,
the
Bobby.
hook.
Good news.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby. Environmental Advisory Board report. And I do believe congratulations are in order.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Somebody did something yesterday with a piece of paper at the election supervisor's office, didn't she?
I did. I submitted my name for candidacy for Soil and Water for seat number 5.
Good for you.
So
Good
I'm
luck.
very excited
Awesome.
about that. A whole new world opening up, much bigger than my small little Port Orange that I worked so hard for. But I think
And you
it's
still will, just doing something else.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
That's
yes,
right.
I'm a multi tasker.
That's right.
And
Good
so,
call.
absolutely, and knowing people on the board and what that conservation committee is all about, it's really going to be run with a new sense of urgency and a whole new group of people. I'm really excited about that.
All right. Well, you got a report for us.
I do. So we are very busy these days.
Yes.
I was met with Ms. Clark and the staff, and we talked about our priorities and what we think we can accomplish with staff. And we put together some projects that we're going to be working on this year. Water quality is obviously a very big subject with everybody, and you may or may not have heard of a water goat, which collects trash. And with the new reporting of how our canals are doing in Port Orange, we'll be able to identify a canal that we can use as water goat, and we will get funding from various sources in the county and so on and so forth. So we're going to go forward with that project. There is a problem in Spruce Creek regarding over by the trestle. It's narrowed down where boats can't come through or kayakers can't get through, and the water is not flowing. As a city, we've had to go get people from there because of the way it's narrowed down. So we are going to partner with different organizations and try and get that open back up. We're not going to demand it's done by the railroad. We're going to work as a partner with everybody and see if we can get a team going to have them take care of what's falling down and be able to open it up back to the boaters and the kayakers and the fish and the water. And we need clean water. Spruce Creek is has lots of state designations that we need to protect. Living shorelines, which you hear all the time, another way to hold the forces of nature back from our shores. So we're looking for space to put more trees up. We have resources that we can put mangroves all along the shoreline, and other people are using different types of oysters and clams and so on, and we're going to be working with different organizations to grow our living shoreline to a greater degree. And what we're really proud of was our tree giveaway. It was the first time we've done that, and thanks to the
Congratulations on a
staff.
very successful Harbor Day.
Yeah. The Parks and Recreation had their Earth Day event down at the Riverwalk. Well, 50-mile-an-hour winds at a very minimum, but everybody hung in there, and it was a great event. Next time, hopefully next time more people would be able to come out. I know the weather was not ideal, but we had 50 trees, all about that tall. Margaret and the staff did a phenomenal job, and Steve the Forester, he was there, and we didn't just give out trees. We asked questions. We at the beginning we made sure that people were from Port Orange, but then we had a lot of people from South Daytona, and we had some trees, so we kind of said yes a couple times, but we want to be good neighbors to South Daytona. And so we had a nice response. People saw them, and we gave 35 of 50 away, and then the rest are going to be distributed throughout the city. So this has just happened since the last time I was here. It's very, very exciting. Now I'm going to give you a heads up on something, and we're going to be asking for the council to help with a project. Our trees over by the library and where the water fountain is, they're not doing well. They're thirsty because they are not getting their water, and we're going to need to fix that or they're going to die. So everybody appreciates that beautiful water fountain area. People sit. People just assume the tree canopy is there. It's not going to be if we don't take care of that. So just want to give you a heads up because I know the budget's coming. So, do you have any questions?
Council?
I don't have any questions, but just a comment about the railroad trestles for those that might be watching or want to do a little bit more research. There's a website called sprucecreekrising.org. I encourage you to go there and see a lot of great information and see in more depth what she was referring to and how that was caused. And I know she mentioned the railroad, and they're responsible. Problem is that for a long period of time we've tried to get them to clean up, and essentially, short story, basically what happened is when the trestle was restructured and built, a lot of the old materials were not hauled away, they were just pushed off the trussels and into the water. And then over time, your barnacles and oysters and debris and things like that have grown to those, and it's getting close to creating a dam effect in that part of the river, and it chokes down, and there are issues at certain tides and flow where not only is it not able to be safely navigated anymore, but dolphin, manatees, some of the wildlife that call that estuary home, at times, if they get caught on certain sides of the tide flow, it is challenging for them to be able to get through the way they need to be able to. So it's a great site. I encourage you, if you want to learn more about that, check out sprucecreekrising.org. I think that's an awesome thing to continue to work on. A lot of people have been working on that. There is a great deal of folks who are already behind that, and hopefully someday it would be awesome to see that get
Well, we're putting a plan
finally
together.
taken care of. Logistically, there are some challenges. For that to be done, the railroad's going to have to be on board, because you can't access it unless you're over top of their railroad. So that's going to have to be
It's
something
a
that.
whole lot easier to get somebody like that to help out with a carrot than it is a stick, unfortunately. And
Probably
it
the
takes
case.
longer with the carrot, but I
Yeah.
think you can get the result. I think you got a better shot at it.
Mhm.
Anybody else have anything else for Chris?
I just want to one more time say how grateful we are for our support with Wayne and the staff. I mean, they just, some cities struggle with a relationship, and everybody here works just to the best of their ability to get all our requests done, provide us with all the information that we need to make good decisions and suggestions, because we are an advisory board. But I just can't say enough how wonderful and how easy and thoughtful they are to our the Environmental Advisory Board. And thank you again for all of that, everybody.
Thank you for your service, your volunteerism, and good luck with the candidacy.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
This brings us to the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing is now open. Item 15, first reading of ordinance number 2022-11. Ordinance number 2022-11 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation for plus or minus 1.44 acres from commercial to mixed-use center for property generally located at 4085 and 4147 Ridgewood Avenue, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-11.
Second.
Give it to Foley.
Sorry.
We have a motion and we have a proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion.
Good evening, Penelope Cruz. Mayor, if it's the pleasure of the council, if you'd also like to open item 16, as they are both interrelated.
I had a feeling.
Don't need a motion for that, do you?
We will as soon as I read it in.
All right.
Unfortunately, every time I click down like that, I lose my zoom.
You can have this one.
It gets really small, so.
No, it's gigantic.
Item 16 is ordinance number 2022-12, which is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning property consisting of approximately plus or minus 1.88 acres from Ridgewood Development, RD, and Community Commercial, CC, to Catfish Commons Planned Commercial Development, PCD, approving the restated Catfish Commons Planned Commercial Development Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-12.
Ordinance number 2022-12. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. The item is open and on the floor for discussion.
Thank you. So the two applications before you, as you just heard, include a future land use amendment as well as a PCD rezoning and restatement. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use of approximately 1.44 acres from commercial to mixed-use center. And a rezoning request is being processed concurrently to add 3 additional properties into the Catfish Commons PCD area and a restatement of the Catfish Commons PCD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan. If both these applications are approved, the Catfish Commons MDA will provide that regulatory framework for the redevelopment of this area. So the first item is a request to change the future land use of properties at 4085 Ridgewood Avenue and 4147 Ridgewood Avenue from commercial to mixed-use center. The property at 4147 Ridgewood Avenue is a 40-foot wide vacant property. It's proposed to be developed with a 3-story mixed-use building with office and retail on the ground floor and 4 residential units above. The current commercial future land use is a single-use category, so it doesn't allow for the mix of uses which is proposed. Additionally, the narrow width of the property limits the buildable area. So both this parcel as well as the adjacent parcel where the current La Cantina Cocina property is located are both being proposed to change to mixed-use center, so that if that's approved thereafter, they would be combined into one parcel to allow for more flexibility of the placement of the proposed mixed-use building and to allow for shared infrastructure. The impact analysis for the theoretical maximum allowances does show an increase in impact. However, based on the actual proposed development in the master development agreement, there is a reduction in what is proposed in comparison to the current theoretical max. This proposed future land use amendment will encourage the redevelopment of an infill property in the Port Orange Town Center CRA, and it also encourages infill redevelopment with existing infrastructure. So staff is recommending approval of this land use amendment. The applicant is also proposing to rezone 3 properties located at 4147 Ridgewood, 4075 Ridgewood, and 4009 Halifax Drive to add them into the Catfish Commons PCD and a restatement of that PCD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan to establish that redevelopment framework for that area. So on the screen you'll see the concept plan and just kind of visually the aerial of how that concept plan is laid out on the left. It is proposing to include the existing Aunt Catfish's on the River restaurant property and the associated parking lot to the west of Halifax Drive into the PCD. A proposed multi-tenant building with a drive-through on the corner of Dunlawton and Ridgewood. The existing properties at 4085 Ridgewood, currently the La Cantina Cocina restaurant, and 4106, 4108 Halifax Drive, which currently has a single-family house, garage apartment, and the proposed marina, and the property at 4147 Ridgewood with the proposed 3-story mixed-use office retail with residential above. The proposed concept plan shows the areas for parking, cross-access drives, stormwater retention, and landscape buffers. And it provides the MDA provides the regulatory framework for the permitted uses, the setbacks, buffers, parking, access, and signage for the properties in the PCD. This proposed restatement does include 6 policy issues that the council will need to consider related to the restated MDA and concept plan. And these policy issues are related to the proposed improvements, as well as uses that are now outright permitted by the code unless they are approved through the PCD process. So we'll get started with the first one is a request to allow 1 drive-through for the proposed building at 4075 Ridgewood Avenue, the corner property. The applicant is requesting for one of the tenants in this multi-tenant building to have a drive-through window. So this is a policy issue because this property, as well as the rest of the PCD, is located in the Ridgewood Overlay District, and the Ridgewood Overlay District does not permit drive-throughs unless they are approved as part of a PCD.
Mm-hmm.
The second policy issue is a request to allow a 12-slip marina to be added to the list of permitted uses at 4108 Halifax Drive. The reason this is a policy issue is because if this was done through conventional zoning, which would be the most compatible zoning, such as the Ridgewood Development zoning or community commercial zoning, this use would be a special exception use. So the request for this to be a permitted use in the PCD is why this is a policy issue. The next policy issue is regarding Aunt Catfish's on the River, which is being added into the PCD. The request is to establish building setbacks for the existing restaurant equal to the current building setbacks that are in place. The applicant is basically asking to maintain the existing restaurant in its current location, and so is proposing in the MDA to establish a 0 building setback. And so this is a policy issue because conventional zoning categories such as Ridgewood Development and community commercial do not have a 0 building setback. So this is a policy issue to be able to maintain that building in its current location. The next policy issue is regarding the landscape buffer on the corner piece there. The request is to allow a varied width landscape buffer along Ridgewood Avenue ranging from 3 feet to 25 feet in width. The applicant is requesting this reduction in the landscape buffer in this area in order to maintain the existing parking for the Aunt Catfish's on the River restaurant and to provide adequate parking for the proposed multi-tenant building property on the corner. This property at 4075 Ridgewood has a unique site condition in that the right-of-way line is further from the sidewalk than most properties along Dunlawton Avenue. So at the narrowest, you can see here, at the narrowest location, the landscape buffer would be 3 feet. However, in that same location, the space between the back of the sidewalk to the parking is plus or minus 60 feet. So even with a reduced buffer, there is a substantial green space before you get to the actual roadway. The next policy issue is regarding on-street parking. The request is to allow for 5 on-street parking spaces on the east side of Halifax Drive. The applicant is proposing to provide this on-street parking to serve the proposed marina in front of 4108 Halifax Drive. The proposed parking spaces will be angled along the northbound lanes of Halifax Drive. As you know, Halifax Drive is a 25-mile-per-hour 2-lane right-of-way that vehicles currently park along at various locations. The proposed parking spaces for the marina are not anticipated to be high turnover, but are more likely going to be park once for the day or half a day. Currently, the LDC does not permit parking to back out directly into a right-of-way, so that is why this is a policy issue. This has been reviewed by the police department, and they have no issues with this. The last policy issue is regarding off-site signage. This is for businesses only within the PCD. The applicant is proposing to allow signage for businesses within the PCD to either install directory signage or tenant panels and other properties within the PCD. So properties within the PCD, as you can see on the graphic to the right, are going to have interconnected driveways. That's shown in the red circles. So the whole PCD property is all interconnected, and the request is to be able to allow this directional signage similar to what's already existing for the off-site additional parking for Aunt Catfish's to help better guide traffic visiting the PCD to additional parking in the area. The signage would be required to meet the minimum requirements in land development with regards to square footage, height, number of tenant panels, and architectural design. Currently, the LDC does not allow for off-site signage, therefore this is a policy issue. So with that, staff is recommending approval of both the items, including the request to change the future land use designation of 1.44 acres from commercial to mixed-use center, and authorization for staff to send the amendment to the required review agencies, and approval of the rezoning of 1.88 acres from Ridgewood Development, Community Commercial, and planned commercial development, and approval of the restatement of the Catfish Commons PCD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan, subject to approval of the 6 policy issues and subject to approval of the future land use amendment. Staff is here to answer any questions you have, and the applicant is also here to answer your questions.
Certainly, before we hear from the applicant, I just want to say that was an excellent recap of not just the project, but what we have before us of the decision-making, the policies. So thank you for that. That's very helpful. Counsel, you want to hear from the applicant?
Sure.
Sure? Yeah, that was really
Absolutely.
And he's going to come up, try to talk.
He doesn't come see us and talk much, so.
Yeah.
Good evening. Brendan Galbraith, 4190 Halifax Drive. I enjoyed all the words that you spoke about Dwight, and that's everything you guys said was relevant to all of our lives of how we need to, go about our way every day. So I appreciated that time that you all took for that. So that hit home with me. So I appreciate that. Happy to be here tonight. Goal here is to bring 5 of our properties together in the most cohesive way possible, interconnect them like she talked about, provide some initial redevelopment, provide some future.
And who are you, sir?
Brendan Galbraith. Did I mention that?
No, you kind of missed that.
Yeah. We'll review the tape later.
Okay.
$1 says either way. Trying to interconnect everything, and provide initial redevelopment with new properties, new structures, and then also come back at some point, I'm thinking within a 5-year span, and rehab the existing structures. So our goal, my goal, and is to have 5 years from now have a project that we can all be proud of. That 5-6 structures wherever we end up at all are rehabbed, are top notch. And I don't think that we're done, bringing properties into this PCD. I think this is just one more step. We built the drive-through apartment. Got that done about 2 or 3 months ago. Actually, December, I believe we got it done. But just real excited to bring this to you. And I'm just more here to answer questions. We anticipate moving into the construction of the corner very quickly. I have the contracts on my desk to sign for the architect to take us to construction drawings and the engineer. So I anticipate doing that very quickly. So I'd like to move forward as quick as possible, and I'd just be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Excellent. Reed, you got anything?
Yeah, I got a couple questions about the parking spaces on the marina, actually. Are we locked in at 12 spaces? Like, is that in this? And maybe a staff question, no more than that?
12 slips.
12 slips?
That's what is proposed in the PCD.
Okay. Have you had any meetings at all with any of the neighbors to just discuss how they feel about that actual on-street parking?
I'd say casual. Nothing official by no means. We all do own the right of way, or excuse me, we all do own the property across the street, so we all naturally park there. I mean, my truck parks in front of my house. I can't speak, for any of them, but it's used commonly today. It's not used in a improved manner, but it is used commonly today.
Yeah.
I do think it's if it's done properly. If you compare it like a Beach Street did it a couple years ago, they took the 2 lanes and put it down to 1. If you do it properly, I think it's actually a traffic calming, and that's kind of where my thoughts come in. Is and we talked about with staff maybe bringing in some type of art piece. And I'm not a traffic engineer, but my understanding of traffic calming is the kind of the closer you get to the road, the tighter you make the road, the slower people naturally go.
Yep.
And I think we started that different concept, but years ago they put stop signs in, down the way. And it's a little bit of a racetrack. I'm just being honest with you. During summertime, people cut through there, so I think it's as a resident that lives on the corner at the end of that block, I think any calming is positive. So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's my district, and residents are always getting in touch with me, especially about speeding down through there. I've been talking to a handful of residents who want speed tables, through that area. So I'm just trying to be sensitive of them, because those are our residents down there. Otherwise, as far as the rest of the project goes, I mean, I'm excited for it, and I want to see you be able to succeed with it. It's just that is a little different to have, and so in my head, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'm not sure I believe that it won't be high turnover. I mean, you have a great restaurant in At Catfish's that's very popular. I can see a lot of people parking there and being willing to make that trek, Not that that's a bad thing, but just a personal feeling about how I think it'll get utilized.
Yeah.
But other than the marina, I don't have any concerns, I don't think, about the rest of it.
And it's been discussed that we could potentially identify those as marina parking only through signage. And
that might make me
that's
feel
a talking
a little
point,
better
which we get the more hours involved as far as just limit the turnover.
Yeah, that might make me feel a little better about the project.
Yeah, I don't think I have any concerns about that.
I'm good for now.
Chase, got anything?
Just a quick comment. We see development all over the county, and there seems to be a general consensus that a lot of people don't want more, but there's also a general consensus that people love seeing redevelopment happening. And this has been a very big priority of ours. I know we've wanted to see this for quite some time on that east side of town. So all for it. Love what's going on.
Good. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Appreciate it.
Scott, you got anything?
Probably to echo some of Chase's comments there, this particular area, for a lot of people who don't really know the history, and maybe some who can't appreciate it, I just would like to say that I do appreciate how you have always been protective and passionate about this particular area, and it's not easy. There are some challenges there as you look at the property boundaries and layouts. That's why you're here, right? So, but this is an area that's very important to the city of Port Orange, especially the east side and redevelopment, and not allowing areas to become into an area that's blighted and run down and needs to be taken care of. So, personally, I would say thank you for your willingness to want to reinvest in the east side of the city and bringing a plan to us that fits not only the need, but it fits the area there. It fits the community. It'll look nice. We're all up here very familiar with a lot of your projects, and we won't talk all about those, but you know, they all turn out to be really well. They're well thought out, well planned. They're well supported by the community, and that's really important. I know it's important to you, but it's very important to us too. Absolutely. To see a project like that. And I know Brendan and I have talked, and I like the vision here, and I like what you're looking to try to do. Kudos, by the way. I know it's not in our city, but your recent project just on the other side came out outstanding.
I think I bought myself a job.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you built yourself a job, right? Yeah, so great architectural design, great layout of a place that was near and dear to my childhood, as many of us that grew up around here, right? Stopping by the surf shop, and what you did with that was amazing, and that's the kind of stuff that we want to see in our city. We want to see reinvestment that turns out to be high quality, that the community just literally falls in love with and just can't help but support it. So I really don't have any issues here with the project or the plan at all, and I appreciate your vision.
Thank you. Drew, you got anything?
Yeah, it's all positive because I mean you had a vision a few years ago. You came to us, you know, when this started, before you owned the property on the corner. That I don't want to call that blighted, but when that was it's been many years that property's been vacant, just sitting there, nothing happening, very little interest at all. I don't know if it was a pricing thing or somebody just didn't want to let go of it or what. I don't know the backstory, but I know it's been sitting there a long time, and so in some of the proposed pictures and the thing I saw, the design is very similar to what you did with your the Casual Bird over there.
Exactly.
And that turned out great. You took a building that was older and didn't look like much, and now it looks pretty darn spectacular. Yeah. So well done, and kudos to that. And like I said, this thing has slowly been coming together, and you had the vision back then, and you've been chipping away at it. And the fact that you're interested in even potentially doing more and adding more to it is intriguing as well. So like I said, I don't have any issue. I'm just happy that this is happening, and it's going to be good for that area and good for you. So kudos to you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Actually, policy issue number 5 was on mine, which was the parking spaces for the marina. And Reed, I'm glad to hear that you're amenable to making that from the marina only, because I think you're going to have some issues if you had people coming down that far at night. But you also will probably have business issues with people wanting to park there during the day, and people wanting to go to the marina and couldn't find a space. So that's probably actually going to be a business necessity for you anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing a finished product.
Thank you. And just overall, I just think what you guys have going on the east side of town, I think we really finally, after 23 years, with 99 to
ish, 23-ish.
I think we had some momentum that we're all going to just really be proud of here in about 5 years. So I support everything you guys have going on that side of town, and I appreciate your efforts to that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan.
I want to see that momentum going in 2.5 years myself.
Yeah.
There's something about the clock. I don't know what it is. Council, do we have any questions of staff? There being none, would anyone here like to speak to the item? Or items, I should say. Items 15 and 16. Council, final comments or questions? There being none, on item 15, first reading of ordinance number 2022-11, call the roll.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Item 16, ordinance 2022-12, call the roll.
Councilmember Foley?
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont?
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. And that brings us to item 17. Do us proud, Brendan. I know you will.
Thank you. Appreciate your effort.
Ordinance number 2022-13 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation for plus or minus 0.81 acres from commercial to urban medium density residential for property generally located at 5360 Dubois Avenue, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date. We have a motion for approval.
Move to approve ordinance number 2022-13.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gideon Smith. If you would agree, if we could open up the next item as well with this, as they're related, kind of similar to Ms. Cruz's item previously.
They are indeed. Just a second. Item 18 is first reading of ordinance number 2022-14, which is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning plus or minus 4.9 acres, located at 4020 Ridgewood Avenue, 4096 Ridgewood Avenue, and 215 Church Street, from PCD to commercial, community commercial, rezoning plus or minus 0.16 acres, located at 411 Church Street, from commercial industrial to neighborhood preservation, plus or minus 0.81 acres located at 5360 Dubois Avenue, from Ridgewood Development to mobile home residential, authorizing revision of the official zoning atlas and providing for an effective date.
Move to also open up item 18 and approve ordinance number 2022-14.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. Both items are open on the floor for discussion. Gideon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gideon Smith, Planning. The first item is a small-scale future land use amendment for 5360 Dubois Avenue, which is located west of Ridgewood Avenue, just south of Massey's. Since this is an administrative request, the property owners have signed an affidavit authorizing the city to act as the applicant for this request and move forward through the process. So the subject property has historically had a commercial future land use designation. However, it was occupied with a residential mobile home for over 20 years up until when the home was demolished in the year 2020. This amendment is proposed to change the future land use designation of the subject property from commercial to urban medium density residential to encourage redevelopment of an infill property that is more compatible with the surrounding residential area. So because the site cannot be accessed from Ridgewood Avenue, all vehicular traffic would have to use the existing nearby residential street network to get to the site. So if approved, this amendment will remove a commercial designation that could generate higher levels of traffic that could impact these local residential roads. The proposed future land use amendment is also being processed concurrently with a rezoning application to rezone the subject property from Ridgewood Development to mobile home residential to increase its compatibility with the residential neighborhoods to the west. All public facilities have adequate capacity to accommodate the proposed amendment, and the proposed land use designation is also compatible with the adjacent properties. Planning Commission considered this application at their April meeting and recommended approval. So the next item for consideration is an administrative rezoning request to establish appropriate conventional zoning designations for 3 areas on the eastern side of the city. Again, property owners have signed an affidavit authorizing. The property owners have signed an affidavit
Telling staff it's okay.
We're allowed to move forward with this application for requesting the rezoning. So Area 1, the properties are located within the Port Orange Town Center Community Redevelopment Area, and the properties encompass the Port Orange Plaza, the Hardee's Restaurant, and Rossi's Heating and Air properties, all of which consist of about 5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
So rezoning these properties from planned commercial development without a master development agreement to a conventional community commercial zoning category is anticipated to assist with redevelopment of these properties. This is because the list of permitted uses in the community commercial zoning district are more current, more flexible when compared to the list of allowed uses from the 1990s that the Land Development Code has for planned commercial developments without master development plans. So generally the community commercial zoning district is one of our commercial district that permits community scale commercial uses that you typically find in shopping centers and out parcels of this type. So at this time there are no redevelopment plans for the subject properties. However, the rezoning is being proposed to encourage redevelopment in this area by expanding the list of permitted uses and also setting clear development standards set forth by the Land Development Code, which ultimately leads to a more efficient and transparent review process at the time of redevelopment. So moving on, Area 2 is located at 411 Church Street, just south of Port Orange Elementary. Subject property is currently vacant and consists of 0.16 acres. So even though the property has been zoned commercial industrial for over 2 decades, it was used as a residence up until 2006 when that home was demolished. Due to the size of the property and the development regulations for industrial uses when proposed adjacent to residential, it's unlikely a site will be developed as an industrial use. So if rezoned to neighborhood preservation, a new home could be constructed on the subject property, which overall is more consistent with the development pattern of the surrounding area, as you can see on the screen. Area 3 is located at 5360 Dubois Avenue. This is the same property we previously discussed with the future land use amendment. Subject property has been zoned Ridgewood Development since the early 2000s, but was originally developed as a residential mobile home. However, the home was demolished in 2020, so it lost its non-conforming status, which means that any redevelopment of the site under current zoning district would be required to be commercial. So, as you can see, the surrounding areas are mainly residential, so rezoning the subject property to mobile home residential is more compatible with the adjacent properties. And as I mentioned previously, the property does not have access to Ridgewood Avenue, so all commercial traffic would have to traverse these residential neighborhoods, which ultimately could lead to negative impacts to the existing residents. This request is also provide an opportunity for the site to be redeveloped with a mobile home. As with all development, any proposed changes will be reviewed by the Staff Development Review Committee to ensure compliance with all code requirements, including but not limited to landscaping, tree preservation, stormwater management, and floodplain regulations. So overall, the proposed rezonings to conventional zoning categories are generally consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the surrounding areas. Again, the Planning Commission considered this application at their April meeting and recommended approval. And with that, this concludes my presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Council, questions? I think this makes sense.
Is the plan to put 1 or 2 mobile homes on that lot?
The site could most likely...
On Area 3?
It could accommodate, most likely 1 to 2
I
mobile
looked
homes.
at it, it's plotted right now for 1. They could request, but they'd have to come back and request be subdivided though.
Yeah, based on the overall size of the lot as it sits, it could be subdivided and meet the standards. I would have to go through the
Can you
subdivision
just roll
process.
back? Could you roll back a few slides to the right there? That's
Okay.
good. All right. Yeah. So currently it's only able to have 1 mobile home, and that mobile home would have to actually be on. What is the avenue there? Sorry.
Turton
No, not Turton. The other one.
or Dubois?
Dubois. All right. So the address for this property is Dubois. If there was a mobile home put in, the driveway and mailbox for that would need to be on Dubois.
Yeah, that's correct. But
Currently.
the zoning needs to be changed in order to put a mobile home on the property because since it was a commercial zone district as it stands, the mobile home is non-conforming.
The reason I'm
use.
asking is because if they had the ability to put 2 on now, and if one was going to address Turton, Turton is zoned for R7SF, and all of the homes that have a Turton address are R7SF, versus the properties on Dubois are currently zoned for mobile home residential. So just wanting to make sure that we keep that congruency going on there. If currently it's zoned for just the 1, then it's not a problem because that would have to face Dubois right now currently. So I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that we're not putting. I want to make sure we're actually keeping those neighborhoods congruent there because they that's where they connect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying makes sense to everyone else? You understand
Absolutely.
the point I'm
And-
trying to get across?
And when I drove it, I kind of looked at it that too, but when I asked, we would basically, that would have to come up if somebody later requested to subdivide. So right now, that.
And even if they wanted to subdivide, so long as both driveways were coming off of Dubois, that would be fine as well. It's just because of those addresses. Right now, if you see every home there in that area on Dubois is zoned for mobile home residential versus there on Turton Street, you can see those are zoned for single-family residencies.
Right now, this.
Right now, it's
nothing
irrelevant.
fits, so.
Yeah, but just a note for later, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody?
Is there-
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Kudos to Councilman Foley for not pronouncing it Du Bois. Are there any other zoning designations for that particular property that would fit here and that we would want to consider? I mean, so I know residential mobile home, but could you build a small home?
So if it was rezoned to residential mobile home, only a mobile home housing type would be permitted. So single family would not. We did talk to the property owner, try to figure out what his wants and needs were for the property. We also, surveyed the predominant housing type of the area, most of which are mobile homes in the area. And then, we even looked at.
Yeah, but I mean, so it seems like there's a lot of places on the east side of our city that were mobile homes, but people are trying to transition those over the years as the mobile home idea concept kind of falls apart to build single family home on those sites. We've seen that successfully done several places up and down the east side of the city. Why would we want to prohibit that?
Well,
or are we prohibiting?
This site's interesting because it has environmental constraints. You have the canal on the east side, the topography. There's quite a bit of grade change. So we worked with the engineering division and talked with them. What would development of this property look like in terms of stormwater management and floodplain regulations. In order to build a single family home, it'd be likely that a lot of fill would need to be brought in to make sure you have a level pad to build that single family home. If you were to construct a mobile home on the property, there'd be ability to put it up on pilings, which then would eliminate the need for so much fill. Just the way you can construct the mobile home. And we're also considering all the adjacent properties. We know historically this area floods. So with any development, however it's zoned, we're trying to make sure that adjacent properties are not flooded. So we think that, staff thinks that, a mobile home would be most appropriate from a development impact standpoint, plus, the wants and needs of the property owner. And even with the development pattern of the area, it's still a residential use, so it shouldn't stick out too much.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? What do you want here? Care to speak to the item, Robert? Or items, I should say.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive. I have friends who live on Turton, and they have single family, as was pointed out, and they couldn't be here tonight, but they asked me to speak, and they would like to see it to be a single family residential property rather than mobile homes. And I think the zoning calls for 4 to 8 units per acre. That they're proposing, and it would seem to me they could put a lot more than one.
It won't fit.
It won't fit.
not-
No,
it won't fit.
when I go
Zoning-
by there, it looks big enough for you could put 4 houses on it, as far as I can see.
Yeah,
But also he talked about the fact that there's no commercial access to the property, but yet on the map it shows an unimproved right-of-way that connects over to Ridgewood, or to that property on Ridgewood. So I just find the whole thing strange. I would not like to see it go through, and think more about a single family residential. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Wayne and I also discussed after I drove the area, and I also did a little public records search, because the property adjacent to it on Ridgewood currently or was owned by the same person. And public records show that they're still owned by the same person, but you said that there was a sale pending.
The sale is complete, as I understand it.
Okay.
It's not owned by the same person anymore.
Because the property at 50, I was looking for a little leverage, because the property adjacent to it on Ridgewood, 5490 Ridgewood, I asked for a code case to be put into place, because it's an absolute abomination. It's adjacent to the Massey Yard, and we shouldn't have properties like that in our city. And I'm hoping that code enforcement drops the hammer on them.
Mayor, just a point of clarification, that can't be part of the consideration of this rezoning in front of us today. I understand you're providing information to council. I just need council to understand that can't be part of your decision making tonight.
So says the attorney. Thank you, Matt. Anyway.
If you'd like me to clarify one, the access to Ridgewood, there's a canal in between the two, which is why you're not
B23.
connecting it.
Yep.
If you want to go back to the map that shows the adjacent zoning, I know there's some questions about whether you would use the mobile home or single family. When you look at the theory of what you're trying to zone, you don't want to create isolated. It wouldn't necessarily be an illegal spot zoning, but you do try to find zoning around it that's the same. So if you look at it, you have basically two choices. You've got the RMH, the orange on the map, and you've got the green R7 SF, which is a single family district to the side. So if you were going to go to some other one, the land use, the comprehensive plan amendment that Gideon spoke of, works for either one of those two zonings, as I understand. We are moving forward with the owner's permission under RMF. So I don't know, or RMH, I don't know if you were uncomfortable with that process, you'd probably have two choices. You withdraw it and let it come back to you at some other time, so we could at least speak to the owner as far as whether it would go to single family or not. I don't know, because we haven't had a chance to talk to the attorney, whether you could just go forward on first reading, changing it to R7, and we could get their permission in the interim, because it is a lower density zoning district, lower intensity, but it would probably be more comfortable to pull it out and deal with that property separately, and you could, if you were comfortable with the other ones, approve them.
Wayne, there's no reason why we couldn't make a change later. If another owner came in and said, I'm not comfortable with this, they can make that request of us. I just don't like the idea of leaving it as a commercial parcel in the meantime.
We don't typically zone people's property on our own. This is our application without their permission. The affidavit they signed was for the RMH. So we don't have their permission. I wouldn't recommend changing it. Either pull it out and let us talk to them, or go forward with it as recommended. And as he pointed out, the issue of, you can put single family homes on there if you go with the R7. You just would have to meet flood zone requirements, which would traditionally here be done by fill dirt and building the elevation up.
It might make it cost prohibitive to develop there in the first place anyway.
It would be a question.
And here's the reason why I'm fine with leaving it as is and as requested, is because the property had been listed for sale previously. If the current owner wants this zoning, I'm fine with that. But if he sells it, a new owner can always come in and make that request of us if they want that change. But otherwise, this is what this owner wants, and I wholeheartedly agree that commercial zoning is inappropriate. My thoughts.
Yes, sir.
I agree with those
Yeah, I'm
thoughts on the commercial zoning part. Go ahead, Scott. I didn't mean to step over you.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I agree with you that has no business being commercial anymore. With no Ridgewood access, with the canal dividing those properties, and now with them being sold separately anyway, that makes sense to me. It's the rest of that puzzle I'm not sure about. So, that's
Yeah, and I kind of like, this was the section of this particular agenda item that I've been wrestling with, and the frontage on the roadway is about 124 feet wide by 160, so it's still a fairly decent size parcel, and I can understand there might be some challenges for a single family residential unit, but it's not that it couldn't be done. So yeah, I kind of like Wayne's idea to pull 3 off of this, and let's explore that other option. Was that particular option, Wayne, was that presented to the
current owner?
Well, not only the current owner, but also our planning board. I know planning.
It came forward as is to the planning commission.
Okay.
You probably wouldn't. I would also not recommend you do the land use amendment either if you're not, because you don't want to have an incongruent comprehensive plan showing it as commercial or residential and zoning as commercial.
Well, why don't we do this? This is first reading. Why don't we do first reading as is? Wayne, our staff can go back and communicate with the property owner and find out what we need to find out, and if we need to make changes at second reading, and pull it out, we can.
I do think I understand that the probability of a single-family home, given the requirements it would take to get it built, meeting all the code requirements, although the lot size is there, the issues
Yeah.
related to a single-family home in the floodplain are different than a mobile home. It probably makes it infeasible to do. I don't want to say that absolutely would. I mean, people build high-rises on sandbars in Dubai, so it's not impossible. It's just not the part of Port Orange where people probably are building sandbars on, or building high-rises on sandbars. So
And that's why, so why don't we do it this way, and if we need to make change at second reading, we can. That way, we're not tying up any more time than we have to. And if we need to make that change, then we can do it.
Penny, if anything on the comprehensive plan amendment part of it as far as the timing?
Not necessarily, because there's not, the only thing would be that the owner has had active calls that people are interested in a mobile home, and so they have active potential sales. And the reason staff went, we looked at both items. Our engineering staffs particularly recommended this zoning district because of the concerns with flooding in the area and the lesser impacts with this zoning district. So this was a direct recommendation from our engineering staff. And that's why we went. We did weigh both options, and in the calls that we did get from residents, first of all, they thought it was going to commercial, so they were very happy to find out that it was going the other way around. So everybody at the end of the call was very happy and pleased with what was proposed, and their second concern once they found out it wasn't going to commercial was flooding, and so they understood why the request was to go to residential mobile home, because they were concerned about additional
I
fill
think
in the area.
That additional fill that it would be significant because it's in the flood zone,
Yeah.
would make water go away from the B23 and not towards it.
So yeah, and with single-family homes, in addition to, you could put the house on, but then people have requests for garages and accessory structures, and so there's always more probability for fill when you're dealing with the single-family home zoning category. We typically don't recommend changing to a mobile home. It's not something we're doing these days. This is an isolated case that we were recommended highly by our engineering staff to go with this zoning category because of the conditions in this area.
Okay. Why don't we, council, if you're amenable, we can go ahead on first reading as is, and Wayne, you guys revisit that and come back with recommendations if there are changes based on what Scott's asking. Are we okay with that?
Can they be at least separated at the second reading as well, so they don't come in at this? Can we have this particular area and its future land use? Can we have that separated from the other two, which we're clearly all okay with for second
Yeah,
reading?
you would be able to at second reading.
That way we don't have to pull it apart at the next meeting. We can just have them be separate agenda items.
Procedurally, is it probably better to leave it the way it is and just have them vote to separate them, since it has come through planning commission and first reading?
The flu would have to go with the.
It stands
zoning.
alone.
I think what you're saying is you got the two other zoning onlys that you'd like to try to get those off on their own.
Right. There's two that we're all
You're talking about a whole, I mean, it's a different ordinance now. at that
Right.
point. So I at this point, I'd recommend we stay where we're at. If we need a change, let's address the change. And these are administrative anyway. We don't have an applicant, correct? Even on the two
Correct.
that are non-Dubois.
Correct. The whole thing is administrative, but like you said, it's all in one ordinance, so we would have to withdraw and start from the beginning again for the planning commission and everything.
To avoid that, if
That's
we do have
fine.
a change, we can come back because it's only administrative. We're not impacting the applicant at this point.
That's fine then.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Call the roll.
Councilmember Foley,
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont,
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner,
No.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-1. The public hearing portion of the meeting is now closed. City
We
Attorney.
gotta-
You have another motion.
Oh, my bad. That was
17.
first reading, item 17, 4-1. First reading, item 18. Call the roll.
Councilmember
Shelby.
Foley,
No.
Councilmember Tremont,
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner,
No.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 3-2. Now the public hearing portion of the meeting is now closed. Additional items, city attorney report.
Nothing further tonight.
Excellent report. City manager report. Wayne, you got somebody you want to introduce to us?
I do. I want to introduce our new Administrative Services Director, Melanie Donnelly, who started with us on Monday. She comes to us after over a decade with Brown & Brown. Administrative Services, for some of you may not know, that's our department that includes human resources, IT, and risk. So she has been here for all of 2 days, so that now makes our police chief and our finance director of veterans.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited about being here, being a part of the team. I have industry experience with telecommunications, civil engineering, insurance. I was a school teacher as well, so I have a lot of stuff to bring to the table.
We were talking before the meeting, and you're selling yourself short because it sounds like you've done a little bit of everything. We look forward to your time with us.
Score one for the public sector.
The school
It's not often
part.
it goes the other way.
I've wanted to go this way a long time.
Well, we're happy to have you doing that here.
The school
Thank
teacher
you.
part just means she's not afraid of anybody.
Yeah, I can
That's
stand
right.
up and talk.
That's right.
That's it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. What else you got, Wayne?
That's it.
Excellent report. Council committee reports, police pension plan.
Okay, so we had a meeting yesterday, so this is fresh. For the quarter ending March 31st of this year, down negative 4.67%, that's net of fees. Fiscal year to date, the plan is down 0.43% net of fees. And the 1 year trailing it was it's positive 5.85% net of fees, and the 5 year return, even with the bad quarter and the recent, is still 5 years 9.66% positive. So that's the good news. Bad news is on December 31st, the plan's market value was $59,042,820, and as of March 31st, it had lost 2.69 million, down to 56,346,726. And April kind of held its own, and May was bad, and so May hurt a bit. And the plan on May 13th, the plan sat at 52,360,663. So it's still more than and before the boom, it's more money than we had at the previous high before the stock market went crazy, but it has lost $6.6 million in value since December, and that's to date. But positively, like I said, the 5 year trailing still is positive 9.66%. So the plan is doing pretty much holding its own, and the losses are related to the ups and downs, and we're not in it for the short term, it's a long term thing. So you're going to have those highs and lows, and we've been riding highs for so long that this low will take some time to recover from.
Investing is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, true. But like I said, the plan is not in danger. It's one of those things. You have those highs and you have the lows, and we had a lot of lows in a short period of time.
Thank you. Fire pension board.
I think I'd rather have Kemper give the.
Yeah, Kemper's was awesome.
Similar to report to what Drew was just saying, everybody knows the investment market's been struggling. A little concerned, though, about the individual funds with the fire pension. The overall plan is doing fine on a rolling 1 year, but the last quarter was pretty rough. What concerned me the most from this meeting that I took away is the individual funds in which we have them. A lot of them underperform their benchmarks, which they're not supposed to. They're supposed to outperform when things are good, and they're supposed to outperform when things are bad, and stay above that. And it just didn't happen. Where the benchmark was 9%, they were down 13.3. Where the benchmark was down 0.75%, they were down almost 6. Where the benchmark was 5.5, they were down 12.24, and just not very good as far as that money and the management right now. we will see what the next quarter brings, but I'm watching this one like a hawk right now. Really want to make sure we're taking care of our fire pension. So not overly concerned. Like I said, the good has outweighed the bad over the last 2-3 years, but worth noting this quarter was pretty rough.
Reed, is there discussion on the fire pension board as to, I mean, at some point the board has to look at it and use that benchmark as a gauge to make some other decisions, some hard decisions, but I don't think that you can just continue to be underperforming. Is there discussion that's already taking place with the pension
There's
board
not
as to-
discussion amongst the board currently.
I guess where's the chalk line, right?
Right. At some point you have to say, if I'm not outperforming to the upside, that must mean I'm going to outperform to the downside because you're going to be more reserved with your assets. If you're going aggressively and you're trying to capture high growth, then when things actually grow, you should do better versus if you're trying to be conservative with your capital and then when you have downturns, you should be in the better side of that. Well, we're having a downturn, but we've been on the bad side of both of those, it seems like, as of lately. So the next pension meeting will be very interesting in 3 months because we'll get a quarter report. That's not to say this won't turn around. The money location where they have it, like Poland Capital and where they have it in some of American Funds, Euro-Pacific, historically they have outperformed in really bad times. Some of those have been more than 1 quarter. Sometimes it's taken 2 quarters. But we'll have to see. I'm watching this very closely. The next quarter is going to be extremely important, in my opinion.
Thank you.
First Step Shelter.
Nothing new to update at this time.
Okay. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce. Well, Emma gave that report for me. Thank you very much. And the roundtable of elected officials met last week. We had a presentation on the opioid litigation and legislative update in regards to that. Looks like all of us will be benefiting from that very soon. The American Flood Coalition gave a terrific presentation, how to prepare infrastructure and the like, and the checklist for local leaders, so that was very informative. And we got a legislative update, a number of things that the state of Florida has done, some of which will be positive, some of which maybe not so much for us locally, we'll see. And one thing that affects me is somehow I've got wrangled into, looks like I'll probably be chairing the transportation subcommittee. But next, yeah, well, we're going to wait till after the election to go ahead and form that and see what we do with that, because quite frankly, I'm looking for a multi-pronged citizen-involved approach to it. And I'm not looking forward to rushing anything before an election. We have a number of comments about that, but it sounds like that I've been roped into doing that, so I'll let you know about that. Elected officials roundtable meets again in September, so we'll keep you gentlemen up to date. Anything else come before us this evening? If not, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week for the workshop. Have a good night.